how long does a dumpster last? What's the lifespan of a dumpster? 10 years, 20 years, 30 years? Who really knows? Obviously, there's people out there who have owned a dumpster longer than 10, 20 years, maybe even 30 years. People who have maybe a multi-generational business where they've got, I'm assuming, hundreds of dumpsters at that point. They've seen brand new ones come in. They've seen virtually dead dumpsters, go out. They recycle them. They go to different things. In this video, I wanted to share with you some thoughts and a recent video that I saw, Life's Apprentice. He was able to kind of talk through some different things as far as dumpster colors and some preferences he's got, and just his thoughts. And in my mind, that kind of sparked another thought, kind of an offshoot, being how long does a dumpster really last? There's a lot of people, including myself, obviously getting into the dumpster business, and we buy new dumpsters, and there's seemingly, I would assume, a lot more dumpsters going out now, being produced, than ever before, due to the surge in the last several years of businesses starting. So how long does a dumpster last? In this video, I wanted to share just a situation that I've got where I have one of my older dumpsters, my 10-yard dumpsters that I got with my roll-off truck. One of them has 2 holes in it now on the floor. It's actually being repaired by MC Fab Mobile Welding. This is my buddy Matt. He has worked on other stuff. He's done other projects for me, and it's been great. Unfortunately, I had to use them again, and I've got 2 holes in my 10-yard dumpster due to concrete being dropped in my 10-yard can. They started off with real small pieces, and then eventually they got bigger and bigger, and ultimately it's my fault for allowing that customer to go up larger and larger pieces. We were doing multiple swap outs over a period of 2 days, and the pieces got bigger, and my quality control and making sure they do what they need to do did not. Ultimately, it's my fault. I'm the business owner. They could do whatever they wanted essentially when I'm not there, but I needed to get ahead of this, and I didn't in this particular case. So these are some of the shenanigans that can happen if you are not having a tight grip on the situation. And this is another learning, unfortunately, another learning opportunity that we've got to kind of hone in on this. So I've got 2 holes in my floor, and the dumpster's still going to survive. It's being fixed right now. It's being patched. I know they're going to do an excellent job with this. And I've had some other things. I've had another company actually damage the actual hinging lock, basically, for the door, where a loader ran into it and bent the whole thing. And that had to be fixed as well. Something that I brought up in a comment on Life's Apprentice's video was, is there like a regimen for somebody who's been in the business longer or has had cans that are older? Is there a type of life cycle process that goes into maintaining these dumpsters? Obviously, talking about the color, the fading of the color. So how often do you repaint it? How often do you need to do touch-up welding if there are some issues that are maybe smaller, hopefully? How often, what does the maintenance look like? Does that, besides just greasing, what else, greasing the wheels, what else should we be doing with these cans? Should we do, more rust prevention, different solutions for that, especially if you're in some colder climates where there's going to be some salt? My understanding is roughly maybe between 20 and maybe 30 years for a dumpster out there. I'm very curious if you are somebody who has cans that you can verify, I guess, that they are 10, 15, 20 years. What does it look like? Every 5 years, do you need to, repaint them, do some touch-up work? Your decals, do they need to be replaced? Do they get scuffed up? Like, what does that timing look like? How often do the wheels, if they're greasable, which I would hope they are, my 10-yard cans currently aren't. They are not greasable. And so I don't know how old these cans are, but these wheels kind of catch and get stuck sometimes. And so they can be a little bit of a problem in driveways, kind of scraping potentially more than they really should. We're not talking about gouging, but how often do you replace your wheels? Greasing the wheels potentially. I think there's probably a different formula, if you will, for maybe different regions of the country. Down south, without salt, without a lot of temperature changes back and forth and all over the place, freezing, thawing out, refreezing, and causing issues in a can. I think there's going to be a different answer for different people all over the country, especially with maybe even the type of dumpsters or maybe even your dumpster manufacturer who built the dumpsters. There may be some superior dumpsters out there and maybe some less than quality dumpsters. And it's a matter of working with what you have ultimately and making sure that you're keeping the quality of your cans at the highest point without the point of diminishing returns, essentially, I guess. Making sure the paint, the decals, the welds, the greasing, the wheels, all of this, everything that goes into a dumpster is kept at the best possible shape so that it can survive the longest. A thought that I had with this is when you do get to the end of the life of a dumpster, where the structural integrity of the whole thing, it's maybe unfortunately over the years a lot of dents and dings, maybe some punctures, on the corners, things are starting to fall apart. It's had a long life. Maybe not necessarily a rough life, but it's just over time, it's just worn and worn and worn. A couple thoughts I had about this was, do you just take this to the scrap yard and dump it? Do you cut it up, slice and dice, and just say goodbye? Do you maybe take off a thought I had that I'd made in a comment on Life's Apprentice's video? Do you essentially just take off your decals? You don't want your branding on it because it's maybe beat to death and you don't want people to see, what's really going on with it. It's used and abused. It's run its course. Do you use that as maybe a scrap metal dumpster on your property, on your piece of land, in order to use that to recoup? It can still make you money just being a placeholder and, be able to leverage that for the long term. Maybe that's an option. Another thought I had was maybe you use this as a dumpster. Again, take off the decal. You're not loud and proud about this dumpster, specifically. Maybe you work out a deal with a local company that needs a dumpster on site year round, but you only charge them for swap outs at a lower price, just so you can make some money. They only need it, used once every who knows how long. Several months maybe, and you're able to make some money with it at all, and it's still worth something to you. Now I can see where if you have a bunch of them, you can't just be having a fleet of dumpsters out there that are beat to death, old, and you're making next to no money on it, and it's more of a headache just to keep track of them and to manage this stuff. And really it's not that profitable. More of a distraction from maybe actual dumpsters going out to full-priced paying customers, something like that. Let me know down in the comments below, what do you think about this life cycle of a dumpster? What would you do at year 20, at year 25? Ultimately, we're talking about on average. We're not talking about maybe one that's just used and abused over time. Earlier on, it gets beat up real bad and you've kind of got to baby it. I'm talking about in general, what does this look like for you for the long term? Ultimately, looking at the long-term effects with these dumpsters, a lot of people on YouTube, maybe we have some older dumpsters, but we don't have maybe a full fleet that have been here for years and years and years. I'm sure there's people out there, maybe that's you. You've seen them come in brand new, and you've seen them come in pieces out, maybe of your property. I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are. To me, I think I agree with Life's Apprentice. I think 20 years is probably on average a safe number, in my opinion, on what that really looks like for a dumpster. Doing the best you can to maintain, to protect it, to not allow it to be abused. Ultimately, if you're using maybe some of these smaller manufacturers that have, smaller gauge metal for walls and the floor and the whole thing, using and abusing it with tons of concrete, loads after load after load, like, the dumpster might not be lasting 20 years is all I would suggest. If it's a much smaller gauge dumpster in general, and you're just going to be using it for, really, you should be using maybe twice, I don't even know, twice the size, twice the thickness of the walls, of the floor, of everything, the whole structural integrity of it. You're probably going to find out the hard way, this dumpster's not going to last 20 years. It's just not. And we're all in this process together. We're trying to learn and grow. I'm trying to share whatever I can as I learn and grow, paying some of the ignorant tax, the ignorance debt that I have built up, that I'm learning and growing as we move on. So this is my situation right now. What are your thoughts? How long does a dumpster last? Is there a cycle? Every 5 years this happens, every 10 years this happens. Do you just wait until something bad happens and then, oh, I guess I gotta fix it? Is there any preventative types of work we can do to keep these dumpsters as long as possible? We're talking about metal. We're talking about metal, some paint, and some words and numbers on a dumpster. And ultimately, these things are, essentially employees. How can we get the longevity out of these employees that we never have to essentially pay again to buy them, but they do require upkeep. They do require some effort to being put into it. Just like a real employee with flesh and blood, we've got to maintain that relationship, invest money into it, and make sure that we can go the distance. We can go all the way as long as we possibly can together. So let me know your comments down below. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk next time. God bless, guys.